Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. I'm so excited to welcome you to the podcast with Junisani Manganya. I'm joined here by Tsepi and Julia. It's going to be amazing. I'm telling you, today you are in for the treat. So welcome, Julia, to a DM Speaker podcast.
Thank you so much. It's so great to be here and it's so lovely to be able to chat to you. So I'm really happy about that.
Excellent. So Julia, today is going to be fun. And one thing I can ask you, it's pretty much simple. We just want to know something about Julia from a point of where does Julia comes from? Where were you born? Were you born in South Africa or you come from somewhere? Where were you born, Julia?
I was born in Pretoria, in the old HF Fouvet Hospital, which is now, I'm not sure what the name, it's the Pretoria Academic Hospital. Yes. That was 1976.
Okay.
1976.
Yes.
Seppi, I don't think Julia looks that age.
Yeah.
I thought she was born in the 80s.
I'm a 70s child.
You're really taking care of yourself. How are you doing that, Julia? Because I promise you, you don't look that age. Not that you are old,
thank you. That's
but
really
you look
kind.
like you're in your 80s.
Oh, wow. Thank you. I'm very careful about the sun. So the sun is one of the most aging things. I do try to follow a healthy lifestyle as far as possible, but it's not always that possible.
Yeah.
But the main thing is just stay away from the sun.
All right.
Yes.
I've noted that one.
Stay away from the sun. I love it, Julia.
So Julia, so you grew up in Pretoria. And how was your, high school days? I think high school days will be the best ones that I want to know about. How were your high school days? Were you the popular girl at school?
No, I wasn't the popular girl. So I went to Pretoria High School for Girls. I was actually quite average, fairly average. I'm not sure that the school really suited me all that well, but anyway, I stuck with it. And I was much happier in my later senior school years than I was in grade 8 and 9.
Yeah.
And the reason for that, what was the issue there?
I don't know really what the issue was. I don't know if it was the environment that just didn't really suit me that well. I didn't meet friends that I really enjoyed. I only met very, very good friends from grade 10.
Do you remember some of those friends from high school?
Yes, I've been in touch. One is still my friend from, she lives in Germany now and we keep in regular contact.
Oh, wow.
She's my best friend. And then, some of the other friends I've been in contact with fairly recently, but they're not such good friends. But that one in Germany is a very good friend of mine. So, yes, I had a lasting friendship from those years.
I can't help but to ask this question, Seppi.
Yeah.
Julia, what did you define a good friend from a bad friend? How do you distinguish between the two?
A friend that really cares about you. So you have many friends, but they sort of come and go.
And more especially those ones who want you to call them all the time, but they don't call you, and they only call you when they need something from you.
Yes, so I stopped calling those friends. But these friends, we have a deep connection. We understand each other. We've been through ups and downs together. No matter what happens, I haven't had a chance to speak to her for so long now.
Yeah.
Because I'm so busy, but it doesn't matter. I can pick up the phone today, tomorrow.
And you
we'll
guys will just
sit on the phone for 2 hours, which is part of the reason I don't phone, because I just the time issue.
Oh, yes.
But I will be phoning her soon. But yes, that's a long-lasting friendship.
Have you visited her at some stage that side?
I was planning on doing that once the property business is up and running and successful. And I promised her that I will be doing that. So that's something to look forward to.
High school friends. I only have one high school friend that I'm still really in touch with. And the relationship is actually good. I love high school friends because those type of relationships, somehow they kind of like genuine, if you understand what I mean.
Absolutely.
Yes. And tell us, in terms of while you were in high school, did you date anyone? Did anyone ask you out? What am I saying, Sep? Of course they did ask her out.
I mean,
Exactly.
In senior high school, I did have a relationship or two. Not really very serious. So, you know, I enjoyed being with my friends more.
Yeah.
But I started enjoying going to nightclubs and things like that. I enjoyed dancing and going out. And
Wait, in high school?
in high school, yes.
Wow, I wish I had You were partying in high school?
I was.
Oh, wow, and you enjoyed dancing. So like,
Yes.
just like nighttime dancing, not like your actual like formal dances.
Yes, just ordinary clubbing. I did that in senior high school.
Oh, that's great.
But my parents had quite a strict curfew for me. It was 12 o'clock.
Okay, let me ask you something. Did they know that you were going out clubbing?
They allowed it, but they said there's a strict curfew.
12 o'clock.
But I was naughty.
I wish I had parents like that. Imagine I was a guy.
I used to complain.
And my parents, when 8 came, 8 p.m., where is Dunisan? At 8, and you're allowed to go until 12. Wow, that was really amazing.
Oh no, I used to complain. 12 was way too early.
No ways.
No, I was a
Julia.
little bit naughty. So then I slept over at my friend's house.
Yeah.
And then we used to go out till all hours of the morning.
Wow.
Interesting. You know, this sleeping out. My daughter the other time, she came and said, Dad, I want to go for a sleepover. I wasn't sure what to answer her. Do you think, based on your experience, that allowing a girl, your daughter, to sleep out is a good idea? Having sleepovers at a friend's place. What's your take on that based on your experience?
Okay, so I've got 2 daughters myself now. And so I think it's fine to have sleepovers. I used to have sleepovers at my friends in primary school. But I think you need to know the family. It shouldn't just be anybody.
Yeah.
You need
I
to know
like
the
that.
family. This needs to be your best friend that your
trust.
parents know the parents.
I
You've
like
seen
that.
each other a lot, so it's not complete strangers. Some parents are still very nervous, especially these days. There's a lot of abuse happening.
Yes.
So, yeah, it's different parents say. Some parents say absolutely no sleepovers. It's not happening.
But I guess it's important to trust your daughter or your child. What's important, I think, is to make sure that if somebody tried to do anything to them, they must stand up for themselves, being able to talk. I think that's a key. That's what I feel you can share based on your experience on that, Julia.
Yes, definitely. So what you want to do is, because you're not going to be there 24/7 for them. And, if they don't experience in high school, they're going to experience it later. If you just sort of lock them up, you are not giving them the tools. You're just delaying what would have happened anyway. So what you need to do is have very open communication, very open relationship, an honest relationship. Don't beat around the bush. Don't make it, too hectic and uncomfortable and intense, but keep those communication channels open. Teach them your values.
I love it.
Once you've taught them your values, they take that through with them for life. And then you don't need to be watching them 24/7 because they've got those tools themselves. You've taught them. If you've given them, self-confidence and, nurtured their self-esteem, then they're going to be fine.
I love it. Maybe let me ask one question with regard to already having tapped into your family. Your kids, how old are they at the moment?
Got one child of 5 and another one of 11 years old.
Both daughters.
Both daughters.
That's amazing. Now let's go back to your high school life. Those boys that you dated, for how long did you date them for?
A few months. So I wasn't really serious about them. It was just sort of a fun
You never
thing.
thought about marrying one of them?
No.
Because sometimes when we date, in most cases, you already have that picture of marrying that person in high school.
In high school,
Yes, of course. I must be honest with you. The first lady that I dated, I thought I was gonna marry her.
Shame.
Because for me, it
Yes.
was like, okay, I'm in a relationship. I didn't know about dating. For me, it was, okay, this is a person that I love. I want to marry this person. Until one of her parents, they actually took her to another province. My heart was broken. So you never had such, I'm assuming, because you knew they were not serious relationships.
Yes, they weren't serious. I wasn't serious about boys really. I was just having fun in high school. And, after a while, I just said, look, I'm sorry, but
this is not for
we're
me.
parting ways now.
Wow.
And my friends were more important at that point. I had a more serious boyfriend after high school.
When you went for tertiary?
Yes.
Okay, just like Tepish, that's what she said.
Yes.
She said she only went for started dating after high school when she was in tertiary. With me, it was totally different. I was dating when I was still in high school, also tertiary. It was fun. I guess that's being a boy. But tell us about your tertiary life and what did you study when you were in tertiary and why did you decide to study what you studied?
Okay, so before I went and studied in tertiary education, I went overseas to London for 2 years. I decided to take a gap year.
You took not even a gap year.
I took 2 years.
2 years. It's not like called a gap year. I don't know what to call it, but that was actually amazing. In fact, you just reminded me because I was telling my kids, my daughter, to say, because of the COVID, they were able to do homeschooling. You know, when you do homeschooling, you can do 2 grades in 1 year. I said she must finish school as soon as possible so that she can go for a gap year. Tell us about the experience that you had during those 2 years.
So it teaches you a lot. It teaches you a lot about survival because you come from your very protected home and there you are in London and you've got to fend for yourself.
But did you know anyone in London when you went for that?
No.
You didn't know anyone.
Okay.
You are very brave. Please teach me, because
Okay.
Yeah.
You went there alone. You didn't know anyone, like, at all.
No. So it was a organized thing, but basically you only got 4 nights of accommodation on the other side in London, and thereafter you had to find your own accommodation, your own job, all of that.
Wow.
They give you 4 days to figure it out.
Yeah, 4 days.
Wow.
You had some tips before you got there, like it's like being on the set of Survivor, right? Except it's in London, and you sort of knew what you had to do, but there was no guarantee, so you had to kind of sink or swim.
No friends, no family, London alone.
Yes.
And you had to swim, eh?
Yes.
And how was your first 6 months in London?
So it was good. It was a heck of an experience. So I worked because I hadn't studied yet. So I just found odd jobs, waitering.
Was it easy to find a job there?
It was fairly easy. I mean, they weren't good paying jobs or anything like that. It was just really to keep things ticking over.
Survivor mode.
Yeah, more kind of survival mode. I ended actually up working at Harrods, which was quite interesting. But I just did odd jobs like that, and then I traveled in Europe a bit, and I managed to go over to Ireland, and I traveled around England a little bit. And then I came back after 2 years, and then I realized, you know what, I don't want to be working in sculleries and doing waitressing. And, you need to work in life, and have a plan. Otherwise, that is not a nice life to lead, working at those sorts of jobs.
And then when did you decide, when you came back from London, that's when you decided that you wanted to go to varsity?
Yes, that's right. So
And you just like picked, which one did you pick? Which one did you go for?
So I went to the Open Window Art Academy.
Mm-hmm.
It was a specialist academy for graphic design. So I started that and I did finished my 3 year
But how did you know you
diploma.
were good at graphic design? What made you to go for graphic design?
I was always very talented in the arts. So I had a very good visual eye.
Did you bring any of your art so that we can see? Not yet. I hope next time, Julia, you'll post some of your art so that we can display them. Yes, Julia?
Yeah, I'd love to. Yeah, it's still something I'd like to pick up as a hobby one day when I have more time, is to do art, because I still love it. But obviously I don't do it myself, but I do enjoy art galleries and I enjoy the art world, and you know, I love the visual side of life. So yes, I had that artistic ability and that visual ability. And so I thought graphic design would be a great career. I chose it myself. You know, my parents
No pressure.
had always said, you know, you must do what you want to do.
Love it. What did your parents do in terms of career-wise?
So my mother is a university teacher, lecturer. She's retired now. Very clever. She's got her PhD. And then
PhD.
my dad...
That was too much pressure there, hey, for you. PhD, mom, and your dad?
My sister's also got a PhD. My younger sister's also got a PhD.
PhD family.
And so does my husband.
PhD.
Oh my God. You are under PhD.
And now you are very much pressured, Julia. PhD,
Yes.
PhD, 3 PhDs. And your dad?
My dad is a mechanical engineer. So he's not he's not an academic type of person. He's more of a practical person.
Yeah.
And so he worked at Ford South Africa for basically his whole working life. Until he retired at 65.
Wow.
So he was working for the company during
Yes.
those days. Wow. And your mom, as a PhD graduate?
She worked at UNISA and she worked at the Teachers College for a while.
Oh, that's nice.
But yeah, so it was, and you know, my parents always taught us the values of hard work. They were both very hard workers, and my father is a very goal-orientated person. However, his view is and was different to, you know, more modern views about, you know, he's not an entrepreneurial type of person. You know, he's a very cautious, conservative person who, you know, likes to have a stable job.
I almost did. In fact, not almost. When I went into tertiary as well, I studied mechanical.
Oh, really?
But mechanical didn't do justice to me. I guess you needed to be a different type of a clever for being able to be a mechanical engineer. That was the first year, because I went to Wits University. It was in Doornfontein. You know the Doornfontein campus?
Yeah.
That's where I did my mechanical engineer.
Oh, wow.
But unfortunately, I flunked. Big time.
I think fortunately, because
I like that.
I mean, look where you are now. You're a born entrepreneur.
100%. But that actually led me to do IT, because while I was doing that qualification, I realized that I was good in IT because there was an IT subject.
Yes.
And within that IT subject, I managed to get 90%.
Wow.
And I realized, what am I doing with mechanical
Yes.
engineering? I should be in IT.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, but that was really amazing. So your dad did mechanical engineer and he worked all his life. And your mom has been a lecturer doing all those amazing things. And you grew up from a family that believed in education. I guess that's why you end up being a graphic designer. And you love doing what you're doing now. I'm talking about back then when you qualified.
Yes, when I qualified, I loved it, yeah.
Correct. And how was your experience finding a job back then after you qualified as a graphic designer? Was there demand for a graphic design positions?
It was actually not quite so easy. I did apply to a lot of jobs, and I didn't make it into a lot of those positions. They prefer to have people with like a little bit of experience, I think.
Oh yeah.
But I managed to find a very nice job as an illustrator, doing medical drawings.
Wow. Did you find that interesting actually, or?
Yes, because so within my skill set, I'm quite science and biology orientated as well as art. So I did biology as a matric subject. So I enjoy anything to do with the body, any kind of medical things. I love that as well.
So at least you were already familiar with that side of things. So it wasn't just like a new thing where you're like, wow, I was used to the arts, now there's biology. That's right, great. Yes. And how was your first job? Like, did you...
Oh, it was great.
The time of your life.
Yeah, it was a lovely, lovely time. And yes, I made good friends there too. And all of us friends actually worked together, but it worked very well. They were extremely talented people, and we used to enjoy our working day. As much as we worked hard, we used to go out for lunch together, and so it was a lovely time.
I'm tempted to ask this question. When did you end your clubbing life? Because once you start something, sometimes it's hard to let go of it, more especially if you enjoyed it.
Really, after high school, I didn't really go much to clubs anymore.
So London?
I mean, we would go sometimes, and so if us girls wanted to have a night out and just enjoy, then we would go out. But it wasn't sort of a regular kind of thing.
Oh, and then in London, did you have any friends that you used to go out with?
Yes, so we met quite a lot of friends there, from all different cultures, which was very interesting. And yes, I actually had a boyfriend there. He was a Spanish boyfriend.
Speaking Spanish.
Yes.
Can you give us 2 lines of Spanish language? I hear that's the romantic language. Probably propose you with a Spanish accent.
Yeah, he was a gorgeous guy with a lovely accent. But unfortunately, then I left there to come back to South Africa.
Oh man,
his name was Alejandro.
Alejandro.
So I
love
guess,
it.
yeah.
Must have been like a movie vibe. I'd be like fantasizing some days, like, oh my gosh, if I could have a boyfriend with an accent from like a different...
Alejandro.
Alejandro.
There we go.
That would be so dramatic.
And I had some Spanish friends, and we had some adventures. I went to the flamenco festival in Spain.
Oh, that's awesome.
Things like that. So yeah, that was amazing.
And would you say like the partying life that side is much more different than this side, or you just found it to be the same thing?
Yeah, it's sort of the same type of thing.
You make whatever out of what you do, basically.
Yes.
You can define it anyhow. I guess she's back because she missed South Africa. There's no more fun than yet of Julia.
I must say, I missed home a lot, and I wanted to come back. I didn't want to stay there.
Can you imagine?
I missed South Africa terribly. So I really do love the country, and the minute I stepped back on the soil, I felt at home again. I like London for the experiences, but South Africa is my home.
And also, you'd probably miss out on birthdays, things like that. Your parents are also growing.
Except it was for 2 years only.
Yes, that's a lot. 2 years. I can't miss my mom's birthday. It's coming up. I'm going home. I can't miss it. These things are important because they're growing, You're also growing, and they're experiencing life in a different way, and you're also experiencing life in a different way. I wouldn't want to be separated with my family for like 2 years. That's long.
It's I love it. Let's say Julia. Yes, Julia. What's your take on what Jetset is saying there?
I was quite independent at that point. So I only really started spending a lot of time with my parents, in the last 10, 15 years. I wasn't At that point, I wasn't that close to them, I have to be honest. I wasn't very close to the family, really. So
You were very independent at a very early age.
Yeah, you know, especially when I was growing up, I don't know about you, but children were generally more independent.
I agree.
You know,
Not the what do you call a Tsepi's age group?
millennials.
Millenniums is totally different. I agree with you, Julia.
They are different. So, you know, we kind of, often we did our own thing. I mean,
Correct.
Depending on your parents, but we just used to go out into the neighborhood, and as long as we come back before dark.
Yeah.
The millennium, they play games in the house.
Yes.
It's hard for them to go out. They are always on their phones, always inside, Julia.
Yes.
And with us, it was all about being outside.
We
you
were
know?
outside playing in the
Correct.
different people's houses, and
she agrees with me. That's why she's laughing. But anyway,
Also playing outside.
oh, well, that's good. I'm glad to hear it.
so it's a different millennium. So Julia, coming back to this, I just want to find out something. Obviously, you started working
Yes.
now from that job, because I'm assuming that when you were doing that job within the medical space, that wasn't exactly what you wanted.
No, it wasn't exactly what I wanted. I wanted to do bigger things in the graphic design world. I wanted to learn other skills in the graphic design world. I didn't want to. Illustration wasn't actually my first and foremost thing that I wanted to do.
And how long were you doing that job there? Were you there for 2 years, 3 years? And
I was there for about 2 years.
Okay.
And then I moved on to another company that was really hard, but that taught me some very good business lessons, you know. And they taught us sort of how to also work very independently, and they taught us a lot about business. And so I took a lot of lessons from there. So although it was hard and my boss was quite a maniac at times, I have to say.
Yeah.
You know, when you speak about that, you remind me of another company I worked for. Because in a very short period of time, within 9 years, I worked for more than 6 companies. There was one company that I worked for, it was called DAV. It was the biggest recruitment agency in South Africa.
Wow.
But it was a German-owned company. They are very time.
Yeah, they're very precise with time.
When it comes to time, you need to be at work at 8.
Sharp.
Sharp.
Yes.
When you are at 8, in fact, you are late. To be early, you need to be there 5 to 8, and you can't leave before 5. They were time conscious but hardworking. So I developed, well, from my parents as well, but also that company played a huge role. Like what you are saying, you just somehow reminded me of that company as we're sharing about that company, because each and every experience plays a huge role in your development.
It does. Especially when you're young, you know, you're still impressionable. There's lots you haven't learned yet. So with every company that you work at, you actually learn so much more than just the actual job that you're doing, you know.
Yeah, that's very true.
Instead of staying in one company.
Yes.
You know, because some people, they can stay in one company for more than 5 years.
I think people just like get comfortable.
Blessing is looking at me. But anyway, not Blessing. Obviously, Blessing has been changing jobs, getting new experiences. But staying in one company for more than 5 years, unless if you're changing in different positions, that will make sense. Am I correct?
Yeah, I think so.
Because it's part of
You can grow
development.
within the same company, but then I think your role does need to sort of change up a
Correct.
bit so that you can develop.
Yes, I love it. And within that space, obviously, the second company that you moved to, you stayed for how long before you went to the third company? And what made you to move from that company?
So that company was sort of a startup, and I just felt it wasn't really going anywhere. So it was time to move on. And then I went to Audition, I did an interview at Outsurance, and then I worked there for 2 years. And that was also a great experience, and I got a lot of experience there, and I enjoyed the experience. And but then after 2 years, I was ready to move on again. But this time, I didn't want to move to the next company. I wanted to go out and do it for myself.
I love it. And at that time, were you still single?
This time I was married. By this time I was married. So I married.
When did you get married? Which year?
I got married in 2004.
In 2004, you were working for which company at that time?
I was working for the graphic design company after the illustration job.
Okay. All right, where you didn't see much growth. And you decided to go to Outsurance and stayed for 2 years. So Julia, while you were still working for that company, the second one, did your husband knew that at that time? I'm assuming you were married already, correct?
Yes, correct.
And did your husband know that you are one of those people that can stay longer in the company, or you yourself didn't know that you're not those ones who can stay for more than 2 years, 3 years, or 5 years? You had a different goal in terms of running a business in the future.
He didn't know, and I'm not sure I knew. I was looking for a company that I could grow with, and I guess it didn't really happen. And when I ended up at Outsurance, I didn't like the corporate politics. The whole corporate world just didn't sort of sit well with me. It was at Outsurance that I really discovered what corporate politics was all about.
Tell me about it.
And at that time in Outsurance, did you have an idea to say, I should start something of my own? And so, thinking, did you ever figure out what it was that you wanted to go into if you were to ever start your own business?
Yes, it was at Outsurance that I decided that I was going to start my own business and go out on my own. That was then a very big leap for me.
Yeah.
Going from a secure job and going into your own, doing your own thing and being an entrepreneur, that is the big leap.
I'm telling you, ask me about it. Having a constant payout every month to none. That's what it meant. So
yes,
you took that big leap leaving your company. At that time, I'm assuming that you were earning a lot of money as a graphic designer, because there was a demand during those times. In fact, graphic design and IT were similar. There was a demand and companies were paying a lot at that time, I'm assuming. To leave your job, as Sepiso asked, you said it was the hardest thing. But I'm assuming because you had your husband at the same time, you had to discuss it with your husband. Because when you are in a marriage, you balance things out. Now there was an imbalance that was going to happen. How did the whole conversation go?
Okay, so I had been unhappy, starting to get quite unhappy in my position in the corporate culture. So I had been discussing it a lot with my husband. At the time, my husband had joined a new company. He was flat out working and quite struggling quite a lot himself to keep up and learn, and he was traveling to Joburg every day. We were living in Pretoria. So it wasn't an easy time for both of us. He did support it, and we sort of figured that at least if one of us is earning a salary, then there's a bit of a safety net. So he supported my decision, and I must say that he has always supported my decisions very well.
And do you think if you were not married at that time, you would have taken that leap? And do you think that had you not had his support, it would have been way more difficult for you to carry it out and just, go forward with that decision?
Definitely having his support was huge. I think for anyone, if the people close to you are not supportive of what you're doing, it makes it really hard. It makes it impossible almost.
Yeah.
So, yes, he was supportive. That was great. If I had been single, it would have been more difficult for me. Definitely. I don't know if I would have done it. I think eventually I probably would have.
Yeah.
I had one colleague who was very supportive. She had actually left the company and we were friends, and she also worked on her own, and I had other people that also supported me that way.
Love it. Like-minded people.
So
In your
like-minded people. So no, that was great. So it worked out well, and in the beginning it was tough. I mean, there were a couple of months where I didn't have money, and I'd always had my own money, and
Now you had to ask your husband.
And I had to ask my husband. The first time I asked him, I was actually in tears.
Oh man.
I felt so...
You're lucky. It's different when you're a guy, because I went through similar. My first year of business, my business went successfully. Second year successfully, but third year, things started going wrong due to the recession, and I started feeling up the effect of it. And when things were bad, at that time, my ex-wife wasn't working. She needed to go find a job. And guess what? She found a job. Now she was taking care of paying for the lifestyle of our kids. But it was still hard for me to ask her for money. I went to ask my siblings. I went to ask my friends.
Wow.
I couldn't come to the point of asking her because I felt like I was going to be a failure if I asked her for money.
Absolutely.
It was a difficult situation. I can understand what you're talking about. It was easy for me to go to my mom and say, Mom, borrow me money, than asking her for money. It was so crazy. So I understand what you're saying. So that experience, I guess there was some changes in your relationship due to that.
Yes, there were. I put a lot of focus and energy into it, and it did eventually work. But my marriage did suffer a couple of times because I neglected it. And we went through a couple of crises together of should we carry on or should we get divorced? And we went to therapy and all of that.
Yeah, that's great.
And we managed to come through that.
I love it.
But those formative years are very difficult when you're both trying to find your feet, you're both struggling, you're trying to make a name for yourself.
And
you're
kids
trying to,
as well.
At that point, we didn't have kids.
Oh, that was good.
Yes.
So it was just the two of you.
It was just the two of us, but we were living past each other. Although he was supportive of me leaving my job, we were still living separate lives, actually.
Okay.
So anyway, that culminated in a crisis. And sometimes, a crisis is a good thing because you can't carry on like that.
Correct.
So I guess it was a good crisis. And, we managed to see that crisis through and come out of it and carry on.
Love it.
And I bet it got you to understand yourself more and to see how, strong your relationship is with your husband. I mean, coming out of a crisis, you've both learned a few things about yourself and a few things about who you are in your marriage and how you can, try to help each other grow. So a crisis is needed at times.
Yes, it forces you to really look inside. And
So would you advise anyone to go into business with the experience that you went through?
I would. I think, I stuck it out. I did well in my graphic design business. Along came kids and I couldn't spend the time on it that I needed to. It's a very, very time-consuming job as a graphic designer.
Were you doing it alone or you had staff as well?
I didn't have staff, but when I got really busy, I did have people that I could outsource things to. So I used that then to take on some work, extra work they could take on. I think business is, it's a wonderful opportunity if you can do it, if you do take the leap. That's where you actually learn so much about yourself as well. And also, you've got a real opportunity to actually build wealth. Because you ain't gonna really build, I mean, you might, if you save well and you're careful with your money and you can have a comfortable retirement. But
I just want to jump there. Yes and no.
Yes and no. Yes and no.
100%, Julia, because the only people who can actually retire happily and safe are those who end up becoming CEOs of big corporates.
You're actually right, Demi, because I was thinking of my dad, but in actual fact, if you think about my dad, he worked his entire life for one company. He was underpaid. And when he retired at 65, he didn't actually retire. He consulted for another 8 years in order to gather more wealth, just to sort of bolster his retirement and be able to do a couple of things that he had dreamed about all his life. So yes, if you're not the CEO of a company, you are quite right.
Correct.
It's very difficult to actually, especially with the cost of living going up all the time, it's actually becoming increasingly difficult as a pensioner to keep up with that.
100%. I remember my mom as well, when she retired. She was a teacher. She retired. It was good. She managed to pay off the house where we were staying in Protea. It was an amazing experience. But guess what? I think 10 years after her retirement, her retirement pension money couldn't maintain a lifestyle.
That's right.
And we started subsidizing that. So pension alone, it's going to be hard for anyone unless if you're a CEO. Again, I'm reminding our viewers, unless if you're a CEO.
That's actually quite right.
Correct. It's going to be hard. And we needed to subsidize to maintain a lifestyle. And she managed to do all those amazing things because of having kids that can be able to do that. And this brings me to the point of minding your own business, which is another key important factor in life. We always say you need to work. There's nothing wrong with working, but while you're working, also mind your own business. How do you do that? By creating wealth through different investments. And Julia, I know that while you're working as a graphic designer, you started considering other investment opportunities. Which other investment opportunity did you pursue while you're working in that graphic design business of yours?
I didn't actively pursue other investment avenues. I'd always dreamt of property, but I wasn't sure how to go about it, which is then how my path crossed with yours. I saw the Riches and Beyond advertisements, and it was at the country club.
While we're still doing live events.
Yes, when
live
events were happening, and I dragged my husband along, and I said,
"Oh, you came with the husband."
Going.
I love it. And he came along to attend with you.
He did.
And how was the experience at that time?
It was very good. So after the seminar, I said to my husband, I'm doing this. And I reached for my credit card and I paid for the masterclass right then and there. Then I went and did the masterclass and I loved it.
Did your husband also join you for the masterclass?
I got him to join me afterwards.
Okay.
So I did the masterclass first, and then I said to him, you must do this masterclass. It's an eye-opener, and I just loved it. And so then I came back with him and we did the masterclass together again.
I love it.
And so then it was actually, in a way, it was quite a clever move on my part, because I wanted him to see what I was saying, because I couldn't come home and explain a 3-day masterclass to him.
And it's hard. It's
get them on
literally
board.
impossible. Yes.
Yes, so he was completely on board because he knew, he had done what I'd done. And so then he believed, we discussed it and he believed in the idea. And then after he had done the masterclass, then I can't remember the exact events that happened, but I decided I'm doing the mentorship. This is for me, this speaks to me, this is my way forward, and I'm gonna give it my best go.
And while you're there, Julia, I want to find out, just take you a step back. Did you own a property at that time?
The only property we owned was our own property that we lived in.
And how was the experience? What made you and your husband to buy the property that you own?
So we always believed in property.
So it's always been there?
It's always been there. So we actually, our very first townhouse, we had a townhouse. It wasn't actually mine, it was my husband's. So I married him, and then it was our townhouse. Well, not really, because we had an anti-nuptial agreement, but what we decided to do was build a second story onto that townhouse.
Second story into a townhouse?
Yes, because it was a single-story townhouse, and there were individual units. They weren't
those
it wasn't. It wasn't. It was separate buildings, so you could actually do that. We got permission from the body corporate to do that.
Okay.
And we built a second story, and we made a profit of about 250,000 rand off that property.
Oh, wow.
And how much did you buy that property? How much did he buy that property for?
He bought that property, I think it was about 200,000 or 300,000 rand.
And how long was that?
So that was in 2002 or something.
Okay. And
then I came on the scene, and then so around about 2005, 2006, townhouses in that area were doing well. It was worth probably about 600,000 rand odd.
without doing anything yet?
Without doing anything yet. And then we built on the extra story, so it had a beautiful view we had river frontage on that townhouse with a lovely bathroom, and which meant that we expanded it, and the design was really nice. So it worked. We didn't even need to really advertise that property, because the people living at the back of that townhouse complex liked it so much, they said, no, it's fine, we'll buy it.
Wow.
We're going to sell our townhouse.
No estate agent involved.
So it was a private sale.
Oh, wow.
So that's the power of property, you know. And so we could see the potential, and we sold it for over 1 million.
Wow, that was really amazing. From 200 and something, obviously you spend money to build, but you walked away with those high profits.
So that was great. So, you know, we always liked it. And then we managed to buy a freestanding house. That was our first house together. And we could do that because of the money we had made off that townhouse. And then from there, we moved to Johannesburg because Ian got a new job in Johannesburg.
Okay.
So the power of property was always there in my mind. I always loved it. I always saw the potential of it.
And your husband as well, because that journey was for both of you, hey?
It was for both of us.
Wow, that's amazing. That's a power of unity. I've seen people doing great when they're aligned in terms of how they think. And the fact that when you went for a training, you decided to go with your husband, that was power out there. Because if he didn't experience what you experienced, it was going to be hard.
It was going to be very hard to persuade him.
I like that. So Julia, where are you now in terms of your journey? How did you end up buying your first investment property?
So I began the mentorship, which was really fantastic, and I loved it, and I put as much as I could into it. I really tried to work very, very hard. And I was determined. I was so restless. I couldn't sleep. Until I bought that first property, I was not going to sleep. I was not going to rest.
I love it.
So I was a pretty determined woman. I spent a lot of weekends going around areas, checking them out, doing my research, just getting my mind into the game. And it was on one of those weekends driving around that I spotted the area that I wanted to invest in.
But while you're doing that, Julia, sorry to interject, did you at any time felt that this is not working? Because when you are working and you don't see immediate results, because a lot of people, when they invest in property, they want to see results immediately. During those viewing days, did you at any time felt that this is not working?
I think one always has that doubt at the back of your mind. You don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
You're just hoping. And, a couple of times I had WhatsApped Lawrence and said to him, sure, I don't know, And he said, he reassured me, and I said, okay, I'll make this promise to you now that I'm going to trust this process. I'm going to trust it, and I'm going to have faith, and I'm going to see it through. So yes, that's part of the reason that I was restless, is because I was so determined. I was so desperate for it to work. I was so focused on it. And so I couldn't rest until I found that first property of mine. I was so excited. I knew this was the property because I'd had all the experience in the field and I'd seen all the properties. You see the good, the bad, and the ugly. When I walked into the good, I just knew it.
Yeah.
So that work was not in vain. You have to put that work in.
Correct. Because all those failures does not necessarily mean you didn't get any experience. The more you see properties, you view them, you can already say this is not a good deal. By those experiences, by the moment you spot on a good deal, it becomes easier.
It falls into place.
Correct, 100%. So that experience played a huge role. And
yes.
Julia, I think it's all got to do with hard work as well. Like you said, your dad, your mom did build something in terms of working hard. And I echo the same sentiments because it's all also about working hard. Can you do anything in life without working hard?
Nothing worthwhile will ever happen without hard work. I think it's just a universal law. You have to really just persevere.
100%.
It's not always going to be easy. You're going to have your doubts, you're going to have your ups and downs, but it's that perseverance.
Wow, Julia, thank you very much. It's truly been an honor to know you, who Julia is. Any last words, Tshepi, from Julia? We just want to celebrate you, actually. You've done extremely well. And maybe before I give Tshepi this opportunity to say her last word to you, I just want to ask you, in terms of your journey, where you are in terms of property, what are your goals in the next 10 years?
Okay, so my goal is the following. I want to expand my portfolio. I'd like to start doing developments. That's very powerful. And I've spoken to my husband, and I would like for him to give up his job and to come and join the business with me. His job is very difficult at times, and he can see the power of the property journey that I'm on. So that is my goal, that in 5 years I will be making enough money so that he can step away quite comfortably and we can carry on the business from there.
I love it. What a power. In fact, I've got something to discuss to you after this, but this is powerful what you just said. And with that, Julia, development is what you're going for next. Maybe let me put you in a spot. How many units in the next 5 years would you like to have, you and your husband? What sort of a development are you envisioning?
Sure, that is a question. Maybe 50?
Love it, 50. Wow. And you are being modest, by the way. Anyway, we're going to leave it at that. I promise you, with Julia, what I've seen in terms of your commitment, I can easily guess 100. But let's stick to what you want, what you see. But with your hard work, your determination, your persuasive spirit, I see 100 already. But while you're on that journey, let's see how it goes. Maybe it can shift from 50 to 100.
Perhaps, yes.
Love it. And with that, I'm going to give Tshepi an opportunity to appreciate you as well.
Well, Julia, all I have to say is just thank you for coming today. Your journey has been quite eye-opening for me personally, having engaged with you and, having shared a few chats. It's been quite an amazing journey that you're going through. And I think you're headed to bigger and higher heights because you are so determined. you are a risk taker and entrepreneur. And I'm looking forward to seeing how everything works out for you. For now, honestly, I'm just very inspired myself to, follow through with the journeys to see how for myself it can work out. And I think a lot of young women out there would be really inspired by your story. And I wish you all the best moving on.
Thank you so much. It's been so amazing to chat with you and hear your points of view. And thank you for the encouraging words and the confidence in me. I really do appreciate it. And I just love being able to inspire people. And in turn, you and your company have inspired me.
Thank you very much, Julia. With that, ladies and gentlemen, we just want to appreciate, and we're so looking forward to having you in the next episode. It's been really amazing. With this, I am out. DEM speaker.